have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Bold Moves podcast. I am the host, Mandy Mucci, and this is episode number 81. If you're a new listener, you probably don't know the format, so I will give you the tips on how this works. On Mondays, I like to do an interview with somebody amazing who has stepped outside of his or her comfort zone and made bold moves and has a great, fantastic, positive, uplifting, and inspiring story to tell about it. And today is no different. I spoke with Maggie Lamarre, who is a marketing expert in the digital space, particularly with Pinterest, and has a great course that came out a couple days ago. But don't worry, you're not too late. She's going to tell us about it and how you can get into it. But if you liked the movie Hidden Figures, I think you'll love her story. She also has a fantastic energy and was really fun to talk to overall. So without further ado, I hope that you enjoy my conversation with Maggie Lamarre. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. I am with Maggie Lamarre, and I'm so excited to hear your story. Welcome to the podcast, Maggie.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure, and I love your energy, so I already know that this is going to be a great one. You know that the podcast is called Bold Moves. What's your story? What's the bold moves that you've done that have gotten you on this show?
Well, I've had several bold moves, but it all started with my daughter. At the time, I was single. I was just divorced, and I was in the technology field. So in that time, to be a woman and being a Black woman on top of that, working, and I was the supervisor at IBM for a department, supervising 20 men that are older than me, and being the only Black woman in there and being a supervisor. And I'm going to date myself because it was doing Y2K. So we were creating the Armageddon that was supposed to come for Y2K when all the computers were going to crash because
right.
it was coming and so on. So at the end of it, I lost my job. Then
wow.
my daughter insisted on eating every single day. So I had to, I mean, yeah.
How needy, come on.
I know. It's like, I fed you last night. It's only morning. You don't eat breakfast. You ate last night.
You haven't done anything to work up an appetite.
Actually, you went to bed.
Right.
You know, so I had to figure out a way that I was going to survive and take care of my daughter and making sure that, yeah, you're able to eat 3 times a day, because that's the only thing that they're thinking at that time, and going outside and play. So that is
sure.
my job to provide. So the bold move that I did was, after that, I went back to school and got my degree in marketing. And then I went to work for another company. Well, it just so happened down the line, 2007. You all know what happened in 2007. We had the crash.
Right.
So as we had the crash, then it was my job to train several developers in India. That turns out that they outsource everything to India. And I had no idea that we were training our successors.
So you basically trained the people who would take your job.
Exactly.
So I hate when I hear that story.
Oh,
it happens too much.
I happen to be one of those cliches, and I'm like, you know what? I am the captain of my ship. I am not going to depend on anybody ever again. So I am going to stir this ship.
Ooh, I like that.
So when I started figuring out what I wanted to do, so that's when my freelancing, I was always doing freelancing on the side. So I am those typical Caribbean descendant that has like 10,000 jobs and stuff.
I've had someone ask me if I was Jamaican before, because I have so many different, ways to make money. You have to diversify, right? It's a smart thing to do.
You have to have multiple streams of income. So I am used to my mom having 3 jobs. Yeah. So I was always doing freelancing. I was always doing marketing and so on. Okay. So it was a really great, bold transition for me to said, you know what, I'm going to steer this ship. You're not going to tell me when to get off. You're not going to tell me where to go. I am going to steer it. So that was my big, bold move. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I didn't have those experience that I experienced. The loss of losing a job that was paying so well in Silicon Valley and so on. I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Okay, so I know you're in Florida now. Were you in Silicon Valley before?
I wasn't in Silicon Valley. I was in New York, but our
Okay.
headquarters was in Silicon. But we were being paid the same amount as as if we were in Silicon Valley. So here I
Okay.
was very, very young, making that kind of money. So
Yeah. And would you say you used it wisely at the time, or did you think you would have that job forever and didn't have to, save so much for a rainy day?
heck no, I was young. I was young, so I was the epitome of I'm not a rap, but of a rap person, because I went to the BM dealership and I'm like, I really love this car. I want to try it. I want to test it.
Yeah.
So I sat there for 5 hours and negotiate the amount that I wanted to pay. And
Yeah.
I walk away. I paid cash for that car.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a money tree, money gravy that was going on.
Sure.
You have to remember, we were taught how to be an employee.
Yeah.
We were not taught how to be an entrepreneur. We were not taught how to invest.
Right.
This type of information was not trickled down.
Yeah.
You have to remember, it's not the same time that we are on right now where everything is available online.
Right.
If you are not doing your education, you're not teaching yourself, you're not learning all these things, it's on you, because
Yeah.
all of it is available to you.
So I have a question. So first of all, where are you from originally? Because you said Caribbean. And then second of all, you were just saying we were taught to be an employee. Who do you mean by we exactly?
Well, I was born in Dominica. My mom is from Haiti. My dad is from Cuba. So my dad escaped Castor and move over, and then met my mom. So they got married, had us. So my parents, their whole belief system is you go to school, you either become a doctor, you become a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the only options that you have. Either
Right.
a pharmacist, a doctor, or a lawyer. And if
Okay.
you're not going to be any of these things, then nothing else exists. So that was the epitome for them. So
Okay.
our job was to go to school and learn and become an employee of something.
Right.
Or if you weren't going to be doing any of that, you had to get a government job. A government
Okay.
job was very secure. So
Yeah.
that's where it's coming from.
The stability. Yeah. I would say even in America, at least up to my generation, I think things have kind of changed a little bit, like you said, because of the internet. But I think I was pretty much taught to be an employee too. I think that's kind of how our system has been set up for a long time. And it's going to be interesting to see how that changes. A lot of people make fun of millennials, but it seems like that mindset applies to you and applies to a lot of people who are like, no, I'm, like you said, steering my own ship. So I absolutely love that you put it that way. Another thing that the beginning of your, introduction and what you do reminded me of is the movie Hidden Figures. Have you seen that yet?
Unfortunately, I haven't, but it's on my bucket list of things to watch. I am right in the middle of launching a program right now, so that's going to be my reward after I'm done.
That's a great reward. I think you'll be able to identify with a lot of it because in the movie, there are characters who do kind of exactly what you said, where they're supervising it's African-American women who are supervising a bunch of older white men and showing them how things are done, which I think is just fantastic. As a woman, I can identify with, but then I, of course, celebrate other cultures and equality. So it's definitely a feel-good movie that I recommend.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to be watching that. So that's going to happen.
Awesome. So you just said you're in the middle of launching a program. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing there?
I am next week, February. Why am I saying
Whoa.
February? I don't know.
Or June.
I don't know where February is coming from. Next June 23rd, I am launching a free training on Pinterest, and it's going to be a very bold move as well. And the reason why is because there's so many myths out there about Pinterest. So I am going to be the myth busters, and I'm going to debunk all these myths. And the reason why you're not getting traction on Pinterest because of those things that you're doing. So a lot of people are not understanding what Pinterest is. So they're saying Pinterest is a social media, but actually it's really not a social media. Pinterest is really a search engine. It's your newest search engine. That's what it is. So I'm going to be teaching you how to monetize, how to use the power of Pinterest to get that traffic onto your business and how to use Pinterest as your cash machine, because that's what it does. It does it very well. So it's going to be 5 days. We're going to be talking about keywords, what keywords are, why they're important. We're going to talk about branding. It's not your logo. It's not your colors. No, it's not. We're going to be talking about what it is. Branding is really about dominating your niche market. So branding came about from Procter and Gamble, and most people don't understand that. They thought it came from graphic design, but it really doesn't. So Procter and Gamble had to bring that up because they wanted to reach the housewives in the 50s. So that's where it came from. So we're going to talk about the history of it. Then we're going to move on to photography. How do you use photography to create a disruption? So we're going to schedule that. Once we're done with that, you understand that, then you're going to be able to go and roll on Pinterest. So that's going to be June 23rd. Even if it's past the time, it's still going to be open. I'm going to turn it into an evergreen email course that you can hop on at any time and access that information. And again, it's free.
That's awesome, because you got my next question that I was going to ask, because as you know, this podcast is going to launch 3 days after you launch your Pinterest training. So I'm glad to know that people who are listening to this on June 26th when it launches, or shortly thereafter, will be able to, still take advantage of that. And myself, I'm getting married the week after that launches. So I'm like, well, maybe I can wait a couple weeks and opt in when I'm not like doing last week before the wedding stuff.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing. That's really a great time.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really excited. I just know that that'll be busy too. And I don't want to tell my family they have to go somewhere else because I'm learning about Pinterest. But I do want to learn, because I have heard that you can use it that way. So that's really exciting.
Oh, exactly. There's so much that you can do with Pinterest. Once you understand the strategies and the things that you want to do, what is your end goal? What strategies do you want to use? So do you want it to just traffic? What do you want to do with it? So there's so much that you can do with it. And right now, Pinterest word of mouth is 68% of all my business that are coming in.
Wow. Well, so that shows that you're doing it right.
Well, that's how I leverage it. It's all about leveraging what you have to make it work for you.
Absolutely. So if someone's listening to this and they want to know where they can find you online, both for this Pinterest course and to see the other things you're doing, what's your website? What social media are you on? Obviously you're on Pinterest, but we've decided that that's not social media. But how can we find you online?
Okay, so I am at my website. It's called Cascade Avenue. It's CASCADE Avenue. So it's like the dishwashing liquid, Cascade.
Yeah.
So it's cascadeavenue.com, and I share a lot of information on my blog. You can also find me on Facebook at Cascade Avenue. It's facebook.com Cascade Avenue. You can find me there.
Okay.
I share a lot of strategies there too. That's not just for Pinterest, but I share a lot of strategies that pertain to your business. A lot of the things that I teach are not specifically just for Pinterest, because you can get that information across board. So you can use, you have to use keyword for your business, regardless whether it's Pinterest, it's Instagram, whatever it is that you're using. You need to be able to use keywords, because what really drives businesses,
traffic,
really drives anything, search engine. This is how you found. But I found a lot of entrepreneurs that are using social media are only using just one tool. That one tool is just going to Facebook groups and so on and all that, which is a fantastic way to contact, to interact with your ideal clients. But that should be only one part of it, not your entire strategy. So that's what I'm trying to teach and show people, that let the search engines do the heavy lifting for you. And it's very easy to be able to do that. So everything that I teach, it's all about your business, how you can leverage it. The podcast that you're doing, Mandy, you have to use keywords as well.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I look forward to learning from you, because I would love to get this podcast out to more ears or more eyes if people are watching on YouTube. So I'm excited, once I'm married and back from my mini honeymoon, to dive into your Pinterest training and see what else you have to offer on Facebook as well.
That is fantastic. And having the podcast being, different ears and eyes and so on, it's very easy to use and leverage search engines, such as Google has introduced last year reach cards. Reach cards, what it does, it brings you to the top of the search engine right underneath the ads. So the rich cards, and Pinterest has rich pin. So with rich card and rich pins, you have a straight IV that goes directly from Pinterest into the search engine.
That explains why so many of the image searches I do end up being links back to Pinterest.
Exactly, because what happened is you double dipping. That's what you're doing. So for the price of one, you're getting so much juice. You're double dipping. So you have the access into Google. I mean, Google introduced the rich card, which is very easy to access the rich cards to get that. I mean, if you do a search right now, you'll see right underneath the ads, you'll see like there's two types. There's the carousel that goes like this.
Yeah.
And then you have the rich cards that are like little cards here, little cards here. Here. So these are the rich cards. So these are the different things. So in the keywords, once you understand keywords from the training that we're doing, then you'll be able to take that information and parlay it and put it right into Google and use that. So that's why I'm saying the training that we're providing, the things that we teach in the coaching program, that is all information that you can parlay and take that into your business. So whether it's a podcast, it's a blog, whether you have an Etsy shop or whatever it is, you can use that information.
That's awesome. That sounds like that'll be very helpful. Well, we've gotten a little bit into the technical stuff, which I think is great, especially for the particular audience that's looking to market their product. But I want to get a little bit back to your personal story. So my next question for you, and if you don't know the answer, that's totally acceptable, because I think it's something that changes over time and that people kind of quest for over the course of their lives. But do you know what your purpose is? And if so, what is it?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to bring religion into this. So I'm Catholic.
Totally welcome to that. Yes.
I'm Catholic. So if you go back to the Bible and you go into Exodus, and it tells you exactly what it is that you are meant to do, what your purpose is. Your purpose is to create. But the issue is most people think that passage of the Bible means procreating. It has nothing to do with procreating.
Okay.
It has to do with we were meant to create, whether we're creating infomercials, whether we're creating new online course, whether you are shaping the minds of tomorrow as a teacher. That's what we were meant to do. Our purpose is to create. So my one little word that I've been using for a very long time is create your life. So all that stems from that particular passage in the Bible, because God already told you exactly what it is our purpose is. So a lot of people are always wondering, what's our purpose? Our purpose is just to create. Whether you help somebody smile, that's something you're creating. So when you start looking at it from this point of view, then you see that, oh, it does make sense.
Sure. I love that. That's such an interesting perspective, and I've never gotten that answer before in all of my interviews. And I think it's really cool, because initially when you said, well, it says in the Bible, I was like, okay, how is it possible that all of us can have the same purpose where it's, written in the Bible to figure it out? But when you put it that way, especially with such a broad interpretation of the word create, such as, creating knowledge for kids, like you said, or creating a smile on someone's face one day, that's definitely something that's applicable to everyone. And you just have to figure out what exactly you're meant to create. So that's really cool.
Exactly. So my marketing, really, all of it that I do stems exactly from this one book. Because if you look at that one book, what is that book about? When you look into it, that book is about everything and everything. Where does storytelling comes from? Right. It comes from that one book. Where does selling come from? Well, the different passages, they have everything in there, from lamenting to poetry to wooing a woman, wooing a man, and all that stuff, to childbirth, childbearing, doubts. When we're doing something, we're full of doubts. Right. Look at what happened to Moses, 40 years in the desert before he finally figured out what exactly he was supposed to be doing. So when people says, well, I'm 55 years old, I still don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, look at, what is that woman's name? I forgot her name. Mary Kay something. She built that business when she was in her 50s.
Oh, Mary Kay Ash?
Yes.
The makeup? Yeah.
The makeup woman. She built it that. Look at the empire she left. She
Right.
died a long time ago, but look at the legacy that
Yeah.
changes. Then you have Domino. She's the lady. I'm making up names now because I can't. But she has a very unique name. So she created the Tupperware, and then she's the one who revolutionized the house parties.
Right.
So she did not do that until, you see, everything you see that has happened, or most of invention that has happened, is because there was a need in the market. They needed something, and they went and created it. So all these are stem from over 2,500 years or before that has been proven. So when somebody says nothing is new, it's really not. Nothing is new. It's been there. It's been around. So it's just a matter of changing it around. Like when you're looking at virtual reality was something that I worked on back late 80s, early 90s. But what's everyone talking about? Virtual reality and so on. Look, if you look at fashion, the same thing. So
right, cycles. Oh, I love it. So it seems like a lot of the things in your story were kind of thrust upon you, like losing your job those 2 times. So those weren't necessarily choices, but I'm curious, including those that weren't choices, what is the scariest thing that you've ever done?
Oh my goodness.
And it can be something you haven't mentioned yet too. I don't know.
So the first thing that there are several things that I've done, but before zip lining was really big here, I went to Costa Rica, and that was like 12, 14 years ago. So surprisingly, zip lining, as you know it right now, came from these 2 kids that came from Salt Lake City. Okay. So they were working in the Arena Volcano area in a B&B, and then they were trying to figure out. They were marketing students. So they were trying to figure out how they can get the U.S. population to come to this remote part of Costa Rica.
Sure.
So they had been to Africa in missions. So they do a lot of missions and stuff. So they were in Africa in mission. So when they went to Tanzania, they saw how some of the tribes would build this really high trust with tree limbs. And then they would get way to the top, kind of like, it's similar to like jumping. Line jumping.
The bungee jump?
Yeah, so they saw that and they're like, well, I wonder if we were to do this from tree to tree, because we have so many trees and stuff, would we do something like that? So that's how zip lining came from. And I was one of the first 20 people to ever try this. And then the whole time that I was doing this, I kept thinking of Judge of the Jungle. Judge of the Jungle, and he was going like, and then he splat into the tree and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kept thinking, I said, oh my God, we are 500 feet above the ground.
Right.
If I fall, I am going to be hamburger. So that's what I was thinking. So that was one of the scary things that I've done. And then the other thing was, I saw a snake. I'm deeply afraid of snakes, and I saw a snake, and I had to chase it with what's that shit? The pitchfork.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Where were you when you saw the snake?
In my backyard. Yeah.
In Florida, or when you lived somewhere else?
Yeah. No, right here.
I've seen some crazy pictures of the wildlife in Florida, and it seems a little intense down there.
Well, everyone's like, oh, it's a garden snake. It's not dangerous. I don't care what kind of snake it is. I don't want to see it. So those are the 2 scariest things I've ever done in my life. Well, to some people it might not be, but for me to be able to change that, oh my God, let me tell you.
You're actually the second person to cite zip lining as the answer, but it seems like being one of the first 20 people makes it a little scarier than probably the other person's experience, because she didn't seem to know the origin or mention, all the details. So I can see that being extra scary, but it also sounds fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was 5 miles. So you start with a quarter mile to get used to it, then half a mile, then you move on and on. But so by the time we get to the 2 miles, I'm like, oh, I got this.
You're used to it by then?
Yeah, I'm used to it. And I went a second day.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So one of my questions I always follow up with then is when you're in a position where you're facing that fear, how do you push through? So when you're like, okay, I'm going to be one of the first 20 people to ever zip line, how do you still do that? Or when you have the snake in your backyard, how do you say, instead of running into your house, how do you get the courage to grab your pitchfork and get it out of there?
I don't know if I should even share this.
You definitely should, because now I'm really curious.
Because my main fear was that in my backyard, because I used to have a garden in my backyard, because I was seeing the snake all the time, I stopped gardening. So that is a passion that I let go because of the snake. So it was at one point that I saw that snake and I'm like, you know what? You are not going to chase me out of my backyard.
You're steering your ship again.
I am steering my ship because you know what? I am not going to be letting you take control of when I can get into my own backyard and when I cannot. I am not going to do this again. So at this point, I had this goal that you were going to either not come back or I was going to do something. And at this point, I had the pitchfork. The pitchfork is so wide. So this is how wide the pitchfork is.
Okay, so
if
you're just...
I don't know how I thought I was going to kill it.
If you're listening and not watching, the pitchfork looks like it's about 3 inches wide and the snake looks like it might be a really big worm.
Yeah, well, it was bigger than that. But the pitchfork was so wide, and I'm at this point I wasn't thinking how effective is this tool going to be. That wasn't what was on my mind. What was on my mind is that you're not going to live here, and I'm not going to be a prisoner of my house because I'm taking control of it. So it's either or. It's not gonna happen. So on the zip line, I had no choice. I was already hanging on
There's no going back.
I was already hanging on that line. So the only choice that I had, it's either I return and then stand there and try to figure it out, or I suck it up and I said, you know what? If I fall 450 feet down this line, and I became hamburger, I know that I did something that I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I've done most of what I wanted to do on my list. Well, we didn't have bucket lists at that time. So we just had things we wanted to do and all that. So that movie didn't come about until that time. So I would have died knowing that I've done the best that I can with the life that I was given. So that was my motivation, because it's either I go back or I keep going. So I kept going.
It's great. Like, I love that perspective. And when you first mentioned what your 2 scariest things are, I thought, well, what can our listeners learn from that? But the lessons that you got from that really are profound in the ways you push through it. Just with anything in life you're afraid of, you have to decide you're not going to let it own you. And then not be worried about failure, because at least you're trying. Because I think a lot of us don't give ourselves enough credit for trying. So thank you for sharing that, because I really do think that that'll be helpful to the people who are listening when they're facing something they're afraid of.
And you know what? I found when you have that fear, when you have that doubt, what happened is once you take that first step. Yeah. Because at that time, I could have stand in that podium and keep thinking about the 5 miles. Am I going to survive? What if I fall? What if I become hamburger? So I was standing at that podium and he's like, are you ready? Not really, but.
Do you want the honest answer, or do you want the answer that we need so that I don't stand here longer?
I was like, are you ready? Not really, but if I become hamburger, so I know that one of you guys is gonna take care of my daughter and stuff. I was like, okay, so I'm ready. So when we first started on there, and then I started thinking about George of the Jungle, and I'm like, okay, I gotta protect myself.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking. At this point, it wasn't the fear of dying now. At this point, it became the fear of hurting the girls. So, I mean, when you start getting these things and you realize the biggest fear that you have, it's no longer that fear, because now you're thinking about something else.
Right.
entirely. So the first thing to do when you have that thing going on, for instance, yesterday, I had to do a huge Pinterest ad. I mean, huge Pinterest ad that I'm investing in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that is a lot of money that I'm going to invest.
Yeah.
And then I triggered the ad and I looked at it this morning. No money is being spent. And it's like, why are you not taking my money?
You're like, I just got geared up for this. Now let's make it happen.
So I was worried about the amount of money I was going to invest. And now they're not taking the money. Now I have a different set of worries.
Right.
Why they're not taking the money? I'm ready. I've done this thing. I'm ready. Take my money. So now I'm going to look at the ads again and I'm like, okay, I am ready for you to take that money. Take that money and let's get it going.
Right.
So
Let's get
when
it
you
move
have
on.
those fears, you got to take that first step.
I love that.
It's the most important.
Yeah, because then you get that momentum. I love it.
Exactly.
Well, that's great advice. I'm wondering if you have any other advice in life and business, anything that you'd like to share for our listeners to help them move forward.
Well, for business, okay, I ran into small business owners who have a 9 to 5,
Sure.
and they're always worrying about, oh my gosh, I have to have a website. I have to have business cards. I have to have this. I have to have that. I have to that. I have to tell you, actually, the only thing you really need, 1 second.
I'm excited to see what this
Sorry,
is.
the only
That's
thing
right.
you need is this.
An iPhone or smartphone.
A phone, period.
Phone. Okay.
All you need is a phone. So you really don't need to have a website. You really don't need to have any of these things. You don't need to have a business card. You don't need to have any of that stuff.
Sure.
The only thing you need is this, and all you need is Google Drive.
Okay.
And I will tell you why. Google Drive is free.
Sure. Unless you fill it up.
Yes, but when you're starting out, you're not going to be filling it out and all that stuff. So
And once you do, it's really inexpensive. I have to pay for my Google Drive. Yeah.
And you don't even need to have an iPhone. You just need to have a phone that has Wi-Fi and you can get on the internet. That's all you need. So once you have that, then the next thing is you want to have a way for people to contact you. So there are a lot of sites that are very free. You could go to Join Me, enter your picture, enter what it is that you do, enter your email, how they can contact you.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Then when you start using that phone, contacting people, talking to people, offering your courses, offering whatever services that you have that is solving a problem, solving a pain point, then you have that money coming in. Then you can go. Have you ever seen a lot of entrepreneurs online? They start their websites look really, really bad. And then 2 years later, they have the most amazing, beautiful thing and all that stuff. Yeah. That's how most people start. So don't let having all these gadgets stop you from taking the first step.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
What is the quote? You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Isn't that?
Exactly.
I don't remember who said that, but
I don't remember either, but it's a really great quote. So what I'm saying to you is that you have a solution for a pain that you can solve. Mm-hmm. Like I said, every invention that you see started because somebody had a pain point and they filled the market, they filled the niche. You see somebody has a need and stuff, offer that opportunity to help them. Sure. Again, you don't need to have infusion soft. Not that I'm knocking any of those. I mean, I have all these tools now. But when I first started, I didn't have any of that stuff. When I first started, I was walking around with a notepad and a pen. Yeah. I mean, at that time, we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
That's just to show you how old I am right now. But I was walking around with a notepad and a pen. Yeah. And taking people's phone number. And then I would call them.
Sure.
Led Zeppelin. They became the #1 band in the world. How are they doing that? Yeah. They were doing that by taking your name and your phone number letting you know when they're going to be in your area, letting you know when they have t-shirts coming out.
Huh. I didn't know that about how they came
Yes.
to be. That's
So
interesting.
bands make their money off merchandise.
Yeah.
So how could they get in touch? We didn't have social media to do advertisement. They could not do print advertisement.
Right.
They weren't able to do that. But you know what? The old stuff still work. So that's my advice. In life, whatever it is that you are doing, you have an issue, look at the other side of the equation. How can I make it happen? How can I get it to work? How can I get the first step to start? First step of starting is really, really big for me. Once you first start, the rest will figure it out.
That's fantastic advice. And I think too, there's like a return in a lot of ways to the old way of doing things in so many aspects of our lives. Because I think it seems like a lot of us got carried away in technology in different ways. Now it's like, you know what, actually, let's go back to this. I'm thinking primarily about food, but I think fashion is the same way, you know, but food where, you know, it was all this processed stuff. Now everyone's like, no, let's cook like our grandparents did. That's much better for us. Farming, same thing. So it makes sense that, you know, tried and true is tried and true for a reason.
Exactly. You have this big movement going on from farm to table.
Yeah.
You know, so you have a lot of farms, small farms that are popping up everywhere right now that you could go in, and you have the co-ops going on. I mean, I remember growing up having co-ops. So co-ops is really big again. So again, there's nothing really new. Things that you're seeing are things that happens before. And what we do, we use technology and what we have today to make it better and fluent and fluid and make it more easier for the distribution channels. That's what we're doing. So for me personally, as of 5 years ago, I don't have business cards. When I met one of my coach, and she told me she didn't have a business card. I'm like, how could you survive in business and not have business card? And then when I learned the techniques and the strategies, it's like, oh my gosh, now if I'm going somewhere, if you and I were to meet at a conference and we wanted to get together again, I pull up my calendar that's right here on my Google Drive.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Let's set up a chat. You and I were communicating over email. You know, what time works and everything. It's the same thing for me. When I go, someone says, oh, I would love to get together with you. Of course, let's pull up your calendar. Okay, I'm available on this Thursday, so and so time. Let's make it happen. And I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Facebook. These are I'm on my website and so on. Because what happens with the business cards?
You get a stack of them and then you don't do anything with them.
They go into the drawer of the graveyards. This is the graveyards of the business cards. It comes to a point that this drawer is full of business cards. I need to have them scanned. But now it's more sophisticated now. Now I don't take business cards from anybody. So when I'm at a place, somebody wants to give me a business card, I scan them onto my phone, and then I give them the business card back. So what I'm saying is you don't need all these things that people are telling you that you must have.
Right.
So that's what's worked for me. Same thing with your personal life as well. You don't need to be so harder and have tons. And I know that's not a good example since I still have my Christmas balls.
They're just gold. They're gold balls.
Well, there you go. You know.
I would have never guessed that was Christmas. You don't have to tell anyone that.
So you don't have to fill your life with all these stuff and everything. Because if you have to fill your life with all these things, you got to start asking yourself, what is it that I'm not feeling fulfilling about? That I'm filling my life with all this junk and all that stuff that you really don't need. So that's my advice. That's what has worked for me. But you know what? It took me a long time to learn that lesson. So I did not wake up one day and I knew all these things. It took a long trial and error.
Absolutely.
To learn this.
And I think beyond trial and error, there's definitely an awareness, because if you're not paying attention and reflecting on what you're trying and how well it works. You can just keep doing the same wrong thing over and over.
You know what? It is amazing, all the stuff that you can do over and over and over. But I've been very, very fortunate that in the past 5-6 years to have really, really great mentors and great coaches and stuff like that. And that's what I want to pass forward, pay it forward. That's the word.
Sure.
Pay it forward. That's what I want to do. So I don't want to leave this earth knowing that all this information, all these techniques, all these strategies that I have, that I didn't pass it on. So that is my mission.
I love that.
To create.
I was going to say, back to the purpose of creating.
Exactly.
How do you find the mentors that you have?
Actually, here's the thing. I've always been the type of person that I am a connector. That's who I am.
Yeah.
So I've always built relationships. So everything that I do is built on relationship. So if you were to say to me that, you know what, I'm looking for somebody, let's say for instance, I'm looking for somebody that can tweak my my copy or something like that, I know exactly who I can connect you with. Mm-hmm. So I come from a background where I have the technology, I have the crafting and so on. So when I wanted to bring my business, I wanted to get to the 7 figure. Everyone talks about 6 figures and all that. I was like, forget about that. I'm not about it.
I love it.
I mean, I like knowing that there's money in the bank, money investing, and I like knowing that I'm giving money to the church at the same time. Because what happened is, if I get kidnapped and I get lost or something like that, I know the church is gonna do whatever they can to find me. So they want that money. So that's my ulterior motive of giving money to the church. That's a good contingency plan. Yes, because I know if I ever get kidnapped, they're gonna find somebody from the Pope to get me. So
we need this income. We got to go find Maggie.
Yes, we're not losing this money, and we got to find her. Even if we have to get Francis to go and find her, we're gonna do it. So that has always been my goal. But in all honesty, no kidding aside, so I've always looked. Okay, so right now I have the coaching program coming up. Okay, so the next program that I have is going to be a program teaching the kids that are in juvenile, that are the prison ministry and so on, that you can start a life and help others and make a good living and good life and not have to resort to crime, not have to resort to all these things and stuff. So how do I get this off the ground? How do I get it to work? Well, I know that I'm going to need investors. So I know I'm going to need people that are very high profile that will need to help. So what I did, I created a list of people that can help me with this. So I created a list of angel investors that could come in and invest into this. Then I started thinking, well, how can I make this work? So, I contacted the local mayor. You know, here we have a mayor for the Orange County and stuff like that. So I contacted him and I pitched and I said, this is what I'm doing and so on. So we have Disney over here. So I pitched Disney. So I pitched to all these people and stuff like that. And then the ones that says no to me, and I said, well, is there somebody you can connect me to? Sure. You see, it's not being afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
I see a lot of small businesses, they need help, but they're afraid to go because they're like, well, if I ask for help, then they're going to say, I'm not an expert, I'm not this and all that. But you know what? When you look at the Golden State Warrior just won the basketball, right?
Yep. I'm in the Bay Area, so it's exciting. Parade was yesterday.
Yeah. So when you look at them, they have all kinds of coaches. They have nutritionists, they have fitness trainers, they have this, they have that, they have that. I mean, they did not get on the basketball court and immediately they win. They have all kinds of help. When these guys are done with playing that night, they have a masseuse, they have a physical therapist, they have a number of people that's helping them.
Right.
But you see, people don't see that on the background.
Right.
So that's why you have to be able to be humble and say, hey, English is my fifth language. So English is not my number one language. So therefore, when it comes to writing, when I need to put S somewhere, I don't. When I need to put ED somewhere, I don't. And the way I speak, that's the way you're going to get it. So I need to have somebody who has better affinity with English grammar and spelling to come in and polish my stuff. So that doesn't make me less of an expert of my subject. That means that I am making sure that I am giving you the right information and in a way that flows that you can understand. So not being afraid to ask for help, not being afraid to say, you know what, Mindy, I am launching this program right now and I need to get 200 extra people. How can you help me get the word out?
Right.
I am not, I'm humble enough to say, I need your help. Like I'll go into groups, and if I don't know something, I'll go into groups and say, hey, I am working on my tag manager and it's not working. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. What would you suggest that I do?
Right.
I'm not afraid to ask for help. So that's the best way of going to find mentors. Once you find these people, know exactly how you're going to implement the information that they're giving you, because you want to make sure that you're not just quoting information, you're implementing them. Nobody wants to be a mentor to somebody who's not doing anything with it.
Very true.
Right?
You're wasting your time. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what? Money is not the most valuable thing to me. What's the most valuable thing to me is my time. Don't waste my time. So if I'm going to be mentoring you and I'm going to share all this information that I have learned over the years, over 23 years of being in business, and I'm sharing that information, because if you look online, everyone is charging you for information.
Right.
I had this guy that tells me that I can show you how to do a screenshot of Instagram, but you have to do a 30-minute pick my brain call for $97. I'm like, what? All you have to do is take your phone, push the button, and go this, and then you do a screenshot. But I admire the fact that he was hustling.
True. Yeah.
I admire that. So what I'm saying to you is that when you need help, ask for help.
Yeah.
Don't put it in your mind that, oh God, people are gonna look down on me and say, so what? They look down on you.
Those are the people who are probably not doing anything.
Well, it's not that. I mean, the thing is, these people are not coming to your house for Thanksgiving dinner. So what does it matter what they think about you? It's not your business what they think about you. As long as you're not a serial killer and you're hurting somebody, what difference does it make?
That's a good point.
Yeah. If they're not coming to my house for Christmas, they're not coming to my house for Lent, I don't really care what you think.
I love that. I think we get caught up in that way too much, and it's refreshing to have that idea. And to your point about everyone, giving information for a cost, I recently spoke to an author coach, and we got on the phone. She's like, all right, what do you need to do? And I told her what I was working on, and she's like, okay, do you have a pen? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you need to do this, 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 this. And she told me everything I needed to know. And I'm like, is there something of yours I can buy? Or because you just gave me everything I need. Do you sell anything? And she's like, well, I can, I offer my coaching services for, step by step and everything. She's like, but I really like to just help people and share information. So it was really refreshing. And, that made me, I'm sure this is part of the reason behind your free programs, is if you give people enough value, you almost feel like you owe them something. So when there is a paid offer, it's like, okay, yeah, heck yeah, you helped me so much already. So,
well, my goal with the coaching program and giving that information is that there's so much misinformation out there that really is not going to be helping you. So my goal is you come in, you take that information, and I want you to start passing it around. I've had people come in and take my coaching program and create their own Pinterest coaching program of that coaching program. So I train the trainers. I go out and I train the social media managers, the CMOs and so on. So I do speaking engagement, I do workshop, I do training. So that's how I do it. So yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think because we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, I think that mindset is probably a good segue to talk about your book recommendations. So what do you got for us there?
Okay, so it's my friend Bob Berg. Bob Berg was introduced to me by my good friend Leah Lacroix. Leah Lacroix is the one that introduced me to NLP, introduced me to, I didn't even know what NLP was. it's neuro-linguistic language programming. I thought it was a nursing.
That's what my first thought was. So we're on the same page.
I thought it was a nursing thing. I'm like, oh, so you were a nurse? She's like, no.
No.
And then she introduced me to Abraham Hicks, which I thought was a person.
Wow.
And turns out to be a collective thought, and I didn't even understand what a collective thoughts was. So I had to learn all these things and stuff like that. But anyway, she introduced me to Bob Berg, and then one weekend, so we drove to South Florida and had breakfast with Bob, and we were talking about this book and so on. So this book has been really, really great. So we drove, and then he's like. So.
Oh, he signed it for you. That's awesome.
But what
one is that? Is that the first one?
It's what?
Is that the first one? The Go Giver?
Yeah, this one is the Go Giver. That's the first one. Yeah, the Go Giver International.
Because it's a series of 3 now, right? Or is there 4?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have this one. So what's great about this book? It talks about being a giver, about pass it on. It talks about charity, doing charity works. It has a lot of great information and stuff like that. How to attract good in your life. Everyone should be reading this book. And then after you read that book, then the other book that I really love that I read all the time is I forgot the name of the author. I should know this, but it's from good to great. So it shows you how things that are good and how you can make it great, and also how not to make your ideal client think too much, how to provide specific directions for your ideal client. So those 2 books are really, really, really great. Outside of learning that Abraham Hicks was a thought collective manifesting thing that wasn't a person, I mean that was a really big eye opener for me, learning about that. But Leah LaCroix is the person that introduced me to that. She was a really, really great mentor and learning different things and stuff. So yeah.
Very cool. I love it. And it's becoming such a small world, and I think the internet does that. But I mentioned before the call that one of the other people I interviewed, who was also in Florida, Phil Gerbishak, is also friends with Bob Berg. So I need to get Bob Berg on the podcast since he's come up so many times.
You really do. You really need to have him. And when you add it, tell him I'm still single.
Is he helping send a Go Giver your way? Is he working on it? Or are you hitting on Bob Berg himself? Oh, we're going to have to tweet this link at him so he watches and can see this. Oh boy, she's frozen. Let's see. Oh, you were frozen for a second, but you're back.
You see, that's what Bob Berg does to me.
You overheated and then your computer got...
My computer got overheated.
All because of Bob Berg. Too funny. Well, my favorite question to ask, I always save it for last, is if you look at your life so far and 8-year-old Maggie had a crystal ball and could see where you are today and everything you've gone through and what's ahead of you from here, on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would you be? I know, of course, it would be a higher number if Bob Berg was, going on a date with you tonight, but...
Now I forgot the question.
On a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would 8-year-old Maggie be to see where you are today?
Wow. This is a work in progress.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, I was talking to Therese Nadeau last week about some work that I still need to do, bringing back my 7-year-old self and so on.
Oh.
There's a lot of great things that I've done in my life, but there's still a lot of personal progress of things that I need to do. So at this point, I think I'll be at a 5 at this point.
A 5?
Yeah.
Wow. It always interests me. I think people surprise me a lot of the time with their answer. So I thought you would be much higher.
You know what? If you had asked me about business alone, business
Yeah.
related, then I would have said that I was at a 9. But
Okay.
as we're talking about personal life, I have a lot of things that I'm working to, and so on. I'm working with a couple of coaching stuff. You see that's the thing. People see success, but they don't see what happens to make that success. They
Right.
don't see the sacrifices and the things that happen for the success. So they only see the success in the front end, but they don't see the back end. That's the reason why I am so opposed to people comparing themselves to anybody.
Right.
Because when you go online, everyone you look at, they have the perfect life.
Their highlight reel.
Everyone has the perfect life. Like, I was on Necker Island with Sir Richard Branson, and I was on his boat and all that stuff. But people don't realize you weren't really invited. You paid to be on there. So everyone is like, "Oh, look at me! I was on Necker Island, and I was with Sir Richard Branson. We
Yeah.
were boating. Look at me! Oh, I'm going fishing with him. Yeah, we're going fishing." And stuff. It's like, if you don't have $25,000,
Right.
you cannot set foot on that island.
Right.
Then you see other people that are like, "Oh, you know what? I am going to be on Oprah this weekend and stuff." Well, what most people don't understand, these things cost money.
Yeah. Your
When you
publicist
have,
has made that happen.
yeah, when you have a huge platform, you'll be invited. Like Bernie Brown was invited.
Right.
But people like you and me, if you really want to be on Oprah, there's a fee for it. So when you're looking at all these things and you don't have the information of behind the scenes, that's why you should never, ever, ever compare yourself to somebody else. Because no matter, even twins are not the same.
Right.
So you can't compare yourself to anybody because you don't know what their journeys are. You don't know what's going on behind the scene. You don't know what they're thinking, what they're feeling. The only thing you have control over is yourself, your thoughts, and your feelings.
Absolutely.
So that is what the reason why is that it's not a 7, it's not a 10, it's a 5, because it's a work in progress.
Sure.
A work in progress at all time. So I've done a lot of strides. 5 years ago, if you had asked me what it was, I would have told you it was a 1. So I feel that I've made a lot of strides.
That's great. And I think it's brave, to not just be like, it's a 15 or it's a million, because that can be really easy to do. And it's also interesting, the way that you personally look at it and how you gauge it. So everyone's answer is always different. And I'm always intrigued to hear, what their number is and why. And so it's all in the way that you measure it. And I think it's great that you have, the self-awareness to really look at where you are, where you want to be, and where you've been, and assess the progress you've made in that regard.
Exactly. It's a lot of work, and you have to invest into yourself, because from the culture that I'm from, there's no such thing as self-care. There's no such thing as any of that. There's no such thing as sitting and for 4 hours and not doing anything. There's no such thing. You need to be busy. Idle hands, I forgot what that quote was. Idle hands create whatever.
The devil's plaything, I think.
Oh, whatever it was and stuff. So that was something that was told to me all the time, that you got to be busy at all time, always be doing business, doing something. If you have 4 hours and not doing anything, then you need to go volunteer somewhere and do something. Be useful. Be useful. That was the word that I grew up with. Be useful. So the idea of me going to the spa for 3 hours and pampering myself was like, how selfish of you.
Right.
That's 3 hours you could have used at the soup kitchen helping somebody.
Right. It's all about balance.
Exactly. So I had to learn all these and stuff like that. So that's the reason why I'm saying. But you see, authenticity is something different for everybody. Right. But most people will say, be authentic, but not that way.
Be yourself, but not like that.
Not that way, not like that.
Yeah.
And stuff. So you have to have a self-moralistic value for yourself.
Right.
You have to have self-integrity of, how am I going to be treating myself? It took a long time for me to be kind to myself. a long time to love myself, to know that and not feel the guilt. God forbid if I was gone, I mean, at my age, like I was 33 years old, if I was to go and get a manicure, such wasteful thing.
Yeah.
Wasting money on a manicure. This money could have fed 5 kids in Africa.
Right.
And it's like, why is it always Africa that has?
It is always Africa.
I mean,
No, every
yes.
every other continent's fine.
There are kids starving here in America as well. So why is it always in Africa? But anyway, so that's the type of servitude that I grew up in, that you always have to be of service to others. So now I have to learn to figure out what kind of servitude, which part of it I wanted to implement in my life, and which one I wanted to let go up by the wayside.
Right.
Kind of thing and stuff. So yeah, long story short, so that's the answer.
Sure. Yeah, I think as a society, we're all kind of still learning after the whole glorification of busy in the 80s that you can't be as productive, you can't help as many other people or help people as well, or even be a good mom, good wife, good family member, good husband, whatever, if you don't take the time to take care of yourself. So I think it's great that you're on that journey too. And I think a lot of people will identify with that for sure.
Oh, now I take off for 3-4 days. We're going to the mountains. After this challenge, I'm going in the mountains for 5 days. Trust me.
Hopefully it's the snake-free part.
Trust me, I'm going places. Well, no, I'm not going in that area and stuff like that. But self-care has become a huge part of my advocacy of teaching people, taking care of yourself. You cannot help others if you're not taking care of yourself. If you're not here, how are you going to be helping somebody else?
Right.
And so that's a really big part of my life and my teaching and my training as well and stuff. And I also bring other coaches and other mentors to come in and help with that too, because it made a huge difference in my life.
I'm sure. Yeah. I definitely see results better when I'm taking better care of myself. So that makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with me and with our listeners today. I think there's so many different points of value and types of value, from your marketing advice to your life advice. I think it's a nice, well-rounded, valuable information. So I really appreciate you taking the time and being bold to share, some things that some people might not be comfortable talking about. So thank you so much for that.
Oh my gosh, I gotta tell you why I'm comfortable talking about this.
Okay.
Okay, so Susan Covey, she has a training. The training is how to be in your own skin and so on. So it's a number of things that she teaches and stuff. So again, I'm going back to Leah. So when Leah introduced me to Susan Covey, and she was about to speak, and she says, "We're about to get naked." I'm like, "What?
What did I sign up for?"
Oh my God, I am not about to get naked. So Susan and Leah is like, "Maggie, you have a very powerful story that you really need to share. People need to hear that story." I'm like, "No, nobody wants to hear my story. I don't have anything profound. My parents weren't on welfare. I didn't know anyone pushing drugs. I didn't know any prostitute. I did not retire my husband from his work, my ex-husband. I didn't retire him from his work, and he came and worked with me. I didn't have 5 kids that I was trying to feed. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I don't have a story. And I wasn't in prison. I didn't carry drugs. I've never smoked marijuana in my life.
Yeah.
I do eat a lot. Yeah, but so I don't have those type of stories. No one is going to want to hear those stories. And they're like, "Trust me, people are going to want to hear your story." I'm like, "Well, I'm not ready to be naked." So it wasn't until like a year ago, I was talking to Susan again, and she's like, "You really have a really great story you should be sharing, because there are people who want to know." I'm like, "No." And then Leah is like, "You gotta write a book." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll write the book, but I'm not ready yet." It took working with several other coaches and being okay in my own skin. And for the first time, knowing who I truly was. and truly understand who I am. So now I'm comfortable to share. But again, like I said, everything you have to take the first step.
Absolutely.
So I took the first step of discovering who I was, what it is. I've always identified as a business person.
Right.
But in my personal life, I didn't know who I was. If I was at an event, we were at Thanksgiving dinner, everyone was talking, I will direct the conversation to business because that was what I was comfortable with.
Zone. Yeah.
It is what I know 1000%. So if somebody was talking about movies and all that or TV shows, I don't watch TV. I don't know any of that. I don't listen to the radio and all that. The music that I really listen to is really classical. So a lot of people call me that I'm uppity and stuff. It just, for me, when I listen to this classical music and all that, it's peace, very peaceful. So a lot of these things I didn't know what to talk about.
Right.
Because I didn't have those. So it took a long time in that process. So I have my coach, Alma, who is a relationship coach. So it's teaching me how to translate all that information from business into my personal life. So that's why I said my personal life is still a 5 because it's still a work in progress.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that you made it to the point on your journey that you could share with us and realizing that you do have value in your story, both as a person and as a business person. So again, thank you so much for your time and being on the show.
It was really great to be with everybody. So hopefully that everyone can learn something, apply it. Please apply it. There's nothing that makes me more happy that somebody contacting me or leaving a message for me on Facebook. Oh, you know what? I heard you talking and this is what I applied and this is the difference that it's making. This is what my validation is. When I know that I'm making a difference in somebody, whether it's one person or two person, as long as it's one person, then I feel that my work has had a purpose.
Awesome. So yeah, listeners, find Maggie at Cascade Avenue on Facebook and send her a message once you reply. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
It almost never fails that the energy and inspirational stories from my guests really gives me a boost for the rest of my day. And this was definitely not an exception to that rule because I just feel so inspired and ready to really, steer my ship, as Maggie said. And I hope that you feel the same way because that's the whole point of the podcast. Now, going back a little bit to what I said at the beginning about if you are new to the format, on Fridays we do a Fearless Fridays challenge. So make sure you're subscribed so that you can stay tuned for the challenge that Maggie has for all of the listeners. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. Additionally, if you're feeling generous and have a few extra seconds, truly that's all it takes, I would love it if you could go to iTunes and leave a positive review for the Bold Moves podcast. Another great thing that you could do that I would really appreciate it, and this goes to Maggie's idea of paying it forward, would be to share this episode or any other episode that's inspired you on social media or your blog, or text it or email it to a friend. But I want to get as many ears on these messages as possible because I really think the world would be a better place if everyone followed their dreams, as long as, like Maggie said, again, they're not serial killers or something, but follow their dreams and we're happier overall doing what they love, because you really can. So let's create, let's help each other create and really go after our dreams. All right. Again, stay tuned for Friday's Fearless Friday episode. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.